Hello, everybody. This is Yağmur, and I am growth marketeer and a partner at Next Big Thing, a full stack growth studio. And I've been working closely with Vinit and London School of Sales for many years. Today, I'm here to guide today's conversation with Vinit for our live masterclass series, and I'll be asking him some questions to get his perspective on AI in sales. How are you, Vinit? Hello.
I'm good. I'm good. It's nearly the end of summer. It's cooled down in London, so yeah, getting ready to start going again as quarter 4 is round the corner.
Yeah, exactly. And the weather is better right now. We are getting,
Cooler. Definitely
yeah,
cooler.
exactly. And this is Friday, and this is the happiest day as well for me. So I feel
Very
good
true.
too. And so, yeah, we are going to speak about AI in sales today because everyone has got an opinion about it right now, actually. And for me, honestly, from where I sit, I see two camps, and one says AI is going to change everything about how we sell, and the others says it's overhyped and it's just faster admin. So I think the truth is somewhere in between, but I would like to put that to everybody properly. So I'll get into it and ask you some questions.
Sounds good.
First, I would love to ask, do you think AI is genuinely changing how sales teams sell today?
Okay. Broad question to start with. Is AI changing how sales teams sell today? The very short answer is yes. And there is different reasons for that depending on who you speak to and what type of organization you are in. I think everyone understands that actually AI is a massive opportunity and it's something that needs to be leveraged. It's something that needs to be explored, examined, experimented with. The challenge that I see is that actually sales teams and sales leaders are using AI in different ways. And here's the thing, a lot of people are actually, from what I see, using AI as a hack. What do I mean as a hack? I mean, actually, they are using it in the absence of not having something in place in their business. So generally speaking, let me use the example of mass personalization or reaching out to hundreds and hundreds of people who previously you wouldn't have actually been able to do that. What AI does is that it helps you do the heavy lifting. So imagine you are sending outreach messages. Well, before, those outreach messages may have been very standard, they would have been very vanilla. Now you can do personalization en masse. So the other way that of seeing this is that actually you can send a bad email or a bad outreach message to hundreds of thousands of people. Before, it would have been contained. Now, actually, you can send a personalized outreach message en masse to thousands of people. So for me, I think a lot of organizations, a lot of salespeople are seeing AI as a hack, and it is absolutely changing all aspects of sales. But I think there is some kind of inflection points, shall we say, that teams need to step back a bit and just actually understand what exactly are they using it for and what results do they really want to get.
Yeah. By the way, I do think yes, AI tools can accelerate the process, for example, for like outreach.
Mm.
But at the end, you do trust the tool and you are just, I think, imagining the messages right. It has personalized everything correctly. So I think it's still kind of risky. You should structure everything very good to trust on the messages that AI created.
Totally. And AI, that's the thing with AI, right? Anything that AI creates, I often find, and I experiment with AI a lot because I'm trying to get my head around actually what is the best way of using AI. It hallucinates a lot. And hallucination isn't a word that we have commonly used historically over the last few years, but since the advent of AI, it's becoming more and more used in everyday language. What I mean is that AI is very good telling you something that you hadn't thought about. And actually, naturally, as a consequence of that, you feel, oh, wow, this is really good. Or actually, when it hallucinates, it forgets the context that you had originally given it. So it gives you a response that seems plausible, but it's actually disregarded some background information that you'd previously given it.
Yeah.
And I find AI does this so much, and it doesn't matter how good you are as a salesperson or how good the prompt that you've written. There is a tendency for AI to hallucinate, to actually forget the context that you've previously given it. And by virtue of that, it is a massive risk, and it actually can cause a lot more challenges
Yeah.
in some instances.
Yeah. People and especially sales teams should use it consciously, I believe. So I'm just imagining like AI gets added to sales teams. And do you think does it actually fix the weak spots for sales team?
It can do is the simple answer. And again, the reason I am a little bit on the fence with a lot of these topics is because it all depends on the thinking that has actually gone into how AI is going to be used. If the mindset of an organization, of the leadership, is actually we're going to experiment with AI to see what kind of impact it can have on our business in different departments and see whether or not it helps us in sales or it hinders us in sales, I think that's a good way to go because it's an experiment. We don't know what the outcome is. We don't know what good looks like. This is a fairly new piece of technology, and it's a technology that could actually revolutionize some of the stuff that we could do. The challenge is that too many organizations, too many sales leaders are seeing it the other way. They are seeing AI as the solution to all their problems in the absence of not having any kind of process or infrastructure. So if you have a sales leader who is actually saying, yeah, we can use this en masse to outreach or to fix our sales process or to fix our reporting, guess what? You're going to find that actually, if you didn't know what that foundation, your baseline was like, AI isn't going to fix anything. It's only going to amplify the issue that you have because it's probably connected a load of dots that you either agree or disagree with. It has created its own logic to what those need to be, and they may not be right for your business or for the way that your team sells or for the way that your buyers actually buy either.
Yeah. So, yeah, the businesses should have a proper strategy and then they can utilize AI better. And of course, AI can make most of the tasks faster, but at the end, there should be a strategy and narrative and context. So the sales team, each member of the sales team can use the same context for all the sales processes in the business.
Yeah, totally. And that word strategy, it often gets overused in sales, but the general thing is you need to actually understand where are you going to go with AI because AI isn't going to instinctively create something that's fit for your business if you don't have that foundation in place.
Yeah.
Let me give you an example of what I mean. If you let's imagine that you don't have, or you're struggling with generating leads, or you're struggling with converting opportunities, or you're struggling with retaining clients. Well, for me, they're all symptoms. They're all actually pain points that many organizations have. AI can't help you to fix any of those. What AI can do is if you give it the right context, the right data about your business, about what you're currently doing, but the context is in relation to what goes before, what goes after, what happens in your buyer's world, etc. AI can help you to perhaps understand where some of those deeper issues might lie.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, if you don't actually do the hard yards, the real deep thinking around actually what that process needs to look like, what that information chain needs to look like, AI is going to fill in the blanks with whatever it thinks is right. And that may or may not work for your business.
Yeah, exactly. I do hear you. And because AI is saving time on research, meeting notes, follow-ups, proposals, even proposals, AI can help with that. I do see that maybe leaders expect more meetings or more pipeline in return. Do you think that like should leaders just expect more movement in the pipeline in return?
Look, having previously been a sales manager, leader, I can understand the quick calculation that goes on, right? Meeting notes are instantaneously recorded and they are uploaded to your CRM. And I can see the correlation between time saved and, okay, there's more times to actually have more meetings and things like that. But the reality is that AI is a tool. It's a technological tool that should be thought of as an enabler. How you use that extra time that AI has helped you to create, I think leaders need to rethink what you do with that. Because I think teams are time poor. Most salespeople spend 99% of their time kind of performing or doing some form of admin. And actually, what we need is we need AI to help create that space so that it gives them some time to think. Because what all they're doing, all I see a lot of sales teams doing is going from one meeting to the next meeting to the next meeting to the next meeting. And guess what? By the time the end of the day comes, they're having to think back 8 hours. That first meeting I had, what was the actions? What did I need to do? And that time to think just isn't there because they are just being asked to move from meeting to meeting to meeting. So for me, if you look at AI in a positive way, then actually create that space to be able to think about opportunities, about meetings, and actually then decide, or use AI effectively to say, right, what do we do next in terms of the logical process and next step and so on and so forth.
Yeah, makes sense. And you know, we are speaking a lot about, and also the industry is also speaking a lot about how marketing teams use AI, how should they use it, or how sales teams are using AI and how should they do. But there is also another point there, I think. So buyers also are using AI too, and it has at the end changed lots of things. So how is that buyers researching, and like how is the changing the way buyers research and make decisions, and what does that mean, you think, for the salesperson?
Massive, massive change. So look, buyers have more choice. There's more competition. There's more awareness from a buying perspective than there ever has been. Let me give you a very simple example of how buyer behavior has changed. So
Mm-hmm.
a few years ago, pre kind of launch of AI, what used to happen is that buyers used to do a search on whatever search engine, and they used to get pages of website entries that they'd explore, and they'd probably go into those websites and actually look at the organizations in a little bit more detail. So, since the advent of AI, what's changed instantaneously, almost overnight, is that now buyers are asking AI to say, hey, I've got this particular challenge. Can you tell me the companies that I need to speak to about this particular problem, or who is best placed to solve this challenge? Very simple. The result, now they're still using a search engine because the search engines ultimately are driven by AI search or whatever. But rather than actually going into each one of those entries, they are looking at the high level summary that the search engine has created for them. So overnight, buyer behavior has actually changed. Now, what does this actually mean? Well, it means more and more and more marketing and sales have to work together. Because if you're not appearing on that summary, then guess what? How are your buyers going to find you? You might have the best product, the service, the solution, but you're unheard of. You're the best kept secret in terms of the buyer's world if you are not able to get on that page or to appear in those search results in some which way, shape, or form. So that's just a very easy, simple way in terms of how buyer behavior has changed. I mean, just to give you some more context, there's more choice, right? There's more competition. I mean, geographically, now the world has become a much smaller place. If you're in the service or product ecosystem, you might be interacting with a company from around the world. But because they provide the service, actually, it doesn't matter where they are geographically. If they can deliver the service to you in a seamless way that's aligned to what you need, does it matter where they are? And so, there is more competition, there is more choice. Buyers are a lot more informed when they are entering into those conversations with sales organizations. And so I think for
Yeah.
me, I'll just add because I've got this, I've got a term that I use for this. I think you need to be very clear when you are talking to buyers from a selling perspective as to what gear they're in. Are you having an interest conversation, an intent conversation, or a commitment conversation? Because if it's an interest conversation, what will happen is that the buyer will come across engaged. They'll ask you lots and lots of questions. They'll be like, oh, send me this information. Most salespeople interpret that as engagement. And actually, in that interest phase, what the buyer is doing is they're researching, they're collecting information, right? They're doing their due diligence. They're saying, actually, we know we've got this problem. What exists in the marketplace that might be right for us? So I think salespeople need to get savvier and understand actually how the buyer's world has changed and what kind of information, what kind of analysis, research they're doing independently of the seller.
Exactly.
Because
Exactly.
when they actually then enter a sales conversation, I think salespeople need to really ask a different kind of question, and that is, okay, so look, you're here, what do you already know? Because you know that they've done some level of research. So perhaps it's actually worth understanding what they already understand about their particular challenge or situation, what research they've already done, and what conclusions they've already reached, because you don't want to reinvent the wheel from a sales perspective, but you do need to understand the baseline that you are working from.
Yeah, they have probably researched about you and your competitor's solution, and they've tried to find the differences between, and they come ready to the meeting to meet with you and ask you questions. So, yeah, I do also believe that sales teams should be more conscious about their business's value propositions, maybe the differences, because if they do less than the buyer, then it's a really big problem. Yeah, right?
Yeah, and that's it, right? Most we get trained, or salespeople generally get trained to solve certain problems or hear out for certain keywords, key pains, whatever. The challenge is that a buying organization may use completely different terminology for those same symptoms, challenges, pains, whatever. So you absolutely, from a selling perspective, and when I say a selling perspective, I'm incorporating marketing and sales, because it isn't just actually sales having to understand what those words references are. It's actually marketing too, because marketing need to make sure that language resonates with that audience and it's on your website, your landing page, whatever, to make it effectively so that you do appear on some of those search results.
Exactly. The communication, the messages, everything that sales team use should be also used by marketing team. Marketing team should know how their sales team sell, and sales team should know how marketing team market the offerings and solutions and everything. Because
100%.
with AI, it's a must. Like definitely,
Yeah,
the alignment is must right now.
exactly. And it's less, you got to, generally there's always been this kind of battle, marketing and sales. Marketing don't like sales, sales don't like marketing, and both think that each other are right or wrong or, whatever. The thing is, more and more and more in an AI driven landscape, they need to work together. They need to understand each other's worlds. They need to understand each other's challenges, and that handoff point of when marketing create the opportunity, the lead to a sales qualified lead, I think needs to really be really, really, really well defined. So going back to
Yeah,
my IIC, my interest, intent, commitment example, it isn't at interest. At interest, a lot of the conversation is marketing driven. It's about actually, okay, buyer, what information do you need to be able to do your due diligence? Now, in order for me to help you, tell me a little bit about your challenges, and I will give you the information that I feel is most relevant to you. At intent, they've actually narrowed that challenge down. They understand it. They know that that problem exists. It's just a case of they haven't decided who to work with, but they know the problem is real. They know they've got to do something about the problem. That's probably where the handoff is really critical, and it becomes a sales qualified lead.
yeah.
So marketing and sales, more than ever, they need to work together.
Exactly. And yeah, so related to this, of course, all the businesses and sales leaders, marketing leaders, business leaders, they all of them want their team to use AI to accelerate things. Sales leaders may be expecting more meetings, more things on the pipeline. Marketing leaders do expect more leads to qualify for sales team and etc. So my question would be, if a sales leader wants their team to use AI well, in a very good way, then for you, what needs to be in place first? What they need to do first for their team to use AI as they expect?
Good question. And I'm going to be quite blunt here, and maybe sales
Okay.
leaders will agree or disagree with me on this. I believe it is the sales leader's responsibility to set their team up for success. It is the sales leader's responsibility to have that infrastructure, that center line, call it the process, call it the rules of the road, the engagement process in place, right? The leader has to set that context out. What does good look like? How do they want teams to actually maneuver from different conversations that take place in sales? What does the sales process look like? What does qualification each stage look like? Etc. 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 Why? Because actually the manager can use this information to coach the team. In the absence of it, what is the manager going to use to coach? They're basically going to be going from conversation to conversation without having something to hold the team accountable to. So the leader has to set this process, the parameters, the rules of the road, the success criteria in place. Managers can coach to it, and then sales teams can get trained to be effective to transition through that sales process and that sales kind of plan. And by the way, if leaders want to actually adopt AI without having this process, without having this center line playbook, engagement, whatever, however you want to describe it, what exactly are you going to use AI for? You can't get AI to create it all from scratch. The AI needs something to build from. AI needs something to help you connect the dots, should we say. So for me, it is the leader's responsibility to ensure that they set their teams up for success and to ensure that infrastructure, that foundation is in place for the team to be successful.
I do definitely agree with you. I was thinking like, okay, for example, objection handling. I can ask AI that what should be the questions set for my sales team for the objection handling part of the sales process, and AI can answer it and can like suggest lots of things, but is that relevant? Is that really relevant to your sales process, to your salespeople? Because not every salespeople is the same, right? Like they are different. And even though you are saying, okay, this is my business model, this is how we sell, you should be more specific and you should have the right context and the strategy as a leader. And then your team can ask AI, yeah, this is the thing, and now I need to understand what objections that I can have and how can I handle that.
Exactly. And what you're talking there is you're talking about layers. Imagine you have a sales
Yeah.
process at 4 or 5 stages. The objections at every stage might be subtly different. And here's the thing, you ask AI, what are the most common objections for my industry or for the product or service that I'm selling? It will come up with something random. It will come up with something actually that sounds quite plausible. At different stages of your sales process, the objection might be slightly different. The interpretation of that objection might be slightly different as well. And what you do with that objection might be slightly different as well. Let me give you an example, right? If you've got a sales process where you're imagine you are just selling products related to the Google ecosystem, and actually early stage you get an objection to around that. Well, actually, guess what? There's no point carrying the conversation on because all of your products and service are related to the Google ecosystem. If someone comes to you and says, okay, but we only operate Apple or Microsoft, well, guess what? It's time to qualify that person out. It's not an objection that you're going to be able to overcome,
Yeah, there's
right?
nothing to handle there.
Exactly. And again, I think you've got to use the data that you have in your business to tell you how best to handle some of these objections, depending on when the objection is raised. Now, if someone raises an objection about price really early in the process, well, you've got to ask yourself, what signal is that sending? Are they actually researching or are they actually really interested? Because generally speaking, when someone raises an objection about price really early on, i.e., like during discovery, the red flag should be, well, okay, we haven't even discussed the solution. We haven't even gone into detail, but they're already thinking price is an issue. It tells me that they are probably more likely to be in research phase than actually in a consideration kind of phase. So
Yeah.
these signals are unique to each business, and you've got to use the data, the intelligence, the experience that you already have in your business to be able to, as a foundation, to be able to build from when you're using AI.
Yeah, that all makes sense. So at the end, yeah, AI is useful. We love it, but leaders should be directing how to use it for their teams. This is not only for sales teams, of course, but especially important for sales teams because they are selling the business at the end.
100%. Like the use cases, the benefits of AI absolutely outweigh the benefits of not using it. The key is that the leader has to set the parameters and then actually the rules of the road of how they want their teams to use AI, where specifically they want the teams to use AI, and what's going to happen with that information and how it's going to benefit the team to create that time or to help them do things in a more efficient, effective way. In the absence of that, sales managers, salespeople are just going to go there and apply their own logic. It's going to not necessarily make sense, and everyone's going to be doing it in their own unique way, in their own different way. And it's probably going to be more chaotic. It's probably going to cause more issues. And you're probably going to find that your teams are actually putting information, sensitive information, in AI that you probably don't want them to put in there either. So lots and lots for sales leaders to consider.
Yeah, I do agree. Thank you very much, Vinit. I think like that was great. We gave everyone, I think, some things to think about, especially around what should be in place before a team starts leaning on AI. So thank you so much for that. We are, I think, going to speak next week on a different topic, but we can always try to also merge AI topic into other discussions that we are going to have. And that is all we've got for today. I want to thank you everybody joining us live, and thank you, Vinit, as always. Do you want to add anything else before we close the session?
No, just it's look, don't be deterred by AI. Actually experiment with it. I think that's the best way to learn it. Immerse yourself. You're going to make mistakes. Guess what? That's the best way of learning. And just get out there, start using it, start applying it, and actually look at the results. Look at the results before, look at the results after, and actually say, how can we improve on it? I think that's the key question. What do we learn from our AI experience, and how can we improve on that experience? That's the best way of learning how to adopt and use AI in your sales organization.
Thank you for the last piece as well. And I guess that is it. And we'll be here next week too. So see you next time and bye, everyone.